Just leaving Mohawk. I wanted to go over and see LD's Patrick myself, make sure everything was going well with the horse, talk to James before, and see how he warmed up. Now, obviously, this isn't a stake race, but at the same time, if I can be here and if I'm of any service, then I will. So we talked about the horse. I was a little concerned about the surface, right? This is a horse, so shoeing wise, when you're dealing with snow on the track, you'd like to be able to get through that snow, right? So shoes with lots of grab, cork on the shoes will help. Now, what wouldn't help? Egg bars. Those bar shoes that go around the whole horse's foot like an egg. Those shoes are hard. They stick and they're hard to get through the snow sometimes. And then if you happen to turn shoes around, what you'd call an open-toed shoe, that's really hard too, right? Because the whole front of the horse's foot is open. Just their hoof there with two corks on the toe to try and grab the track. So it's not really what I would call a very conducive shoeing change for the weather. The horse did school great. I thought he was probably ready to trot in 50. I guess, given the track conditions, the allowance, he probably trotted well. Did give it up a little bit. We're getting him scoped, but I don't think we have to go down that rabbit hole too far. I don't think he bled or anything like that. I think this horse was slipping. Probably the first time in a while he's felt a little, and to take nothing away from where he came from a world-class barn. Just, I think maybe he's trotting a little bit differently, if nothing else. We took all the weight off him up front, took the flip-flops off him, opted for an aluminum shoe. I think his footwear were good in the sense that his feet weren't sore tonight, bad in the sense that I can't really see him getting a hold of the track very well. And then you can combine that with a set of egg bars we put on him behind. I know this may sound like excuses. I don't have to make any. I thought the horse raced well. But for people out there that are in the know, when you talk about shoeing, an aluminum shoe turned around backwards on a trotter in a snowstorm with egg bars on behind, maybe not the best footwear, but there's not much we can do about it. This is what we have to play the hand we're dealt. I don't think this is a type of situation where you can just change the shoes on the fly and say, okay, we're putting something totally different on him. This is what we schooled him in. This is what we were going with. Mother Nature probably didn't cooperate that well. Having said that, a couple other notable takeaways from the race. James said he was still on the right line running in, yet he was drifting down the lane. I don't think that was a soreness issue. I think that was probably an equipment issue. We're going to make a few little changes on him next week. And again, this horse had left a bad taste in James's mouth from when Ben had him. He had told me, he didn't like him, to be honest. For a horse that's made as many breaks as him and had such a checkered past with breaks and being bad in different places. Go back and look at his races. Lots of breaks at the gate, breaks in the weirdest places. Quite frankly, probably a number of those breaks were just sheer ignorance. But the question I have a lot of the times for horses like that is, where does the ignorance come from? Is it a Father Patrick thing? Is it a shoeing thing? Is he interfering? I believe that he was probably interfering, and after 5 or 6 miles of making him do it right, I think you'll start to chip away at that rigid exterior, and he'll become the horse that we hope he'll be. We bought him to be exactly what he did tonight. If that is what he is tonight, we still underpaid for him. I think he's much better than what he showed tonight. Just going to take a little bit. Now, we're working with a firmer track next week. I'm going to make 2 other little equipment changes. I talked to Jason and James about it after the race. 2 little equipment changes with him. I'm going to take those line poles off, take that Murphy blind off, add a steering bar, a jawbreaker as it was called, depending on where you're from. And we're going to take the scalpers off and put bell boots on them behind. Now, that's a little European trick for the most part. It changes their gait a little bit behind. And for a horse, it just picks a little bit. You watch him in the middle of the straightaway when he gets his ass over on the right shaft a little bit. You watch him when you go to accelerate. In his first 2 or 3 steps, he's a little rough, a little out of gear. He wanders a little bit. That tells me that that's a horse that's interfering. As he picks up speed, probably at top speed, you won't see that. At bottom speed, you won't see that, but you see it in between. And that's where you see a horse with that checkered past. So what I'm looking at is a horse on paper that is doing exactly what I see him doing on the track. Doesn't mean that I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I think take all the stuff off him, just add that jawbreaker, that steering bar, and bell boots behind instead of scalpers, and I think we'll have him exactly where we want him we want him for the future. So when it comes to LD's Patrick, yes, we were beaten third. Yes, I believe he probably should have won. I can give you a number of reasons why he didn't. That doesn't matter. What matters is next week. Is he going to be better? I think the biggest takeaway from tonight and the biggest pickup for next week will be the racing surface. If it's a firm surface, if it's a good surface, a fast track, I think you're going to see a much better, a much different, and a much improved LD's Patrick. So keep an eye on that. So a good night all around. As somebody astutely pointed out, I suppose you can blame me for costing us the win with Swan Sonny. My takeaway from Swan Sonny is simple. If I wanted to put my litigation hat on, I believe I'm second place first, right? I believe that when you look at the confusion that happened, I came in a little bit, and Paul McKenzie came out at least as much, and I believe probably maybe a little more. But given the conditions, given the snowy track, maybe I should have just carried out a little bit. We were winners, 100%, that got beat tonight with Swan Sonny. I don't think she'll maul that class next week as she would have mauled them tonight. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you missed it, go back and look at what took place coming out of the last turn. We locked wheels. I did hook them from behind, so again, that's a good indicator of it being my fault. But when you look at the head-on, Paul McKenzie did come out. I did come in. In the racing world, you would call it 50-50, but I should have avoided it. You're right. And I did maybe cost us the win, but at the same time, that won't happen next week. She's a horse that I think will end up at Mohawk at some point. LD's Patrick was very good tonight. Very happy with LD's Patrick, especially in the sense that when I look at his footwear on the track that he raced on, the equipment weighs, I think there's an improvement there to be made. So we'll check in on him next week. I think the racing surface will tell the story for LD's Patrick next week in his next appearance. So that is it till Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, for racing, but not for training. We get the open house tomorrow. Everybody's pumped. Everything is ready to go, and everybody's happy. I get a big surprise for Amy. She doesn't watch these videos, so I'm going to tell you right now, I bought her a brand new helmet and training suit for Christmas. Now, my rule as a kid was nothing gets opened until Christmas. Nothing. And the only human on earth I would break that rule for is my wife, and I will tonight. I'm going to put her new helmet and her new training suit at the door for her to use tomorrow at the open house. I'm sure she'll be very, very pleased and surprised when she sees it at the front door tomorrow. So, a Merry Christmas to her. As I said, the only human on earth I would break my rules for would be my wife. So, Merry Christmas to everybody. A good day today. Could have been better. Yeah, we could have hit the winner's circle twice, but they both still raced good, and they'll be back at it next week. Take care, everybody.